Hey guys, I'm dropping another video, and this is going to be a part of my Let's Talk section on my YouTube channel, and of course, being added onto my blog. And I wanted to talk to you guys about this topic. Let's talk about confusion and how we deal with confusion, I feel almost on the daily. But this has been a topic that's been weighing on my mind as of late because sometimes when it comes to confusion and where it's stemming from has my thought process crossed. And I'm going to explain because there's something that I'm confused about when it comes to the fact that if you think about your testimony, your life story, things that you have gone through, and now where you are today, how your testimony can help other people. It can be what they need to see that there is a positive ending, a positive outlook to that situation. Because if you recall when you're in that situation, when you were going through it, at that time you couldn't understand why you were going through it. I know that was for me. Going through, if I check back for a moment and I take a trip down the past and I think about my childhood and I think about the early to mid adulthood of my life, there are certain scenarios that were, they had good moments, great moments. Then there were bad moments. And then there were some ugly moments. And going through the good, bad, and the ugly, I couldn't understand why I was undergoing some of those situations. Things that I was facing, things that I was going through, my trials, my tribulations, my storm. I couldn't understand it. I was so confused as to why I was, dealing with some of that pain, dealing with the hurt from those chapters in my life that were, that's my book that was written, for the past. And I just couldn't understand. I was so confused because for me, if you think about it, even in your moments, you reflect on yourself of, you want to look at yourself that you're a good person, that you're doing the right thing, that you tried to put the best foot forward in your life, and then all of a sudden, bombs are going off, chaos is happening, certain, nonsense is circulating around, so many different emotions flaring and different things that you're facing. And then this is where I am today, where I'm having a moment and thinking about it because I went through all of that heartache and pain along with some good treasured moments for a reason. And how else can we really reach people? How can we help people if we can't relate to them? That's the whole point. We have to go through things because even in the Bible, people have gone through things. There's chapters and stories, things that we read that is still going on today. You have people with foul language, you have manipulation running amok all the time. You have people, killing, there's just all kinds of stuff that have happened back then that are still happening today. And it's all relatable. But now, because of where we are in our, day and age, modern times, if you will, we can relate to each other a bit better because who better to understand than us? If I know that when I've spoken to some women that have gone through some really tough situations with their relationships, whether they were just in a courtship or, marriage. I hear their stories, I hear their struggles, and, their heartfelt pain. And I, can relate because hearing their stories, I understood it because it was familiar territory for me. I could relate to them in a different way than someone else could. You hear, I understand. But sometimes that person may not understand. They're just being empathetic because that's the right thing to say in those moments at that time. To where for me, although yes, I am empathizing as well, I truly understand and can relate to that person and try to give a different outlook on that situation and let them know that although that, the situation is rough right now, that there is better that's coming because I went through that. And to give them that encouragement, that motivation, that uplifting that they need, and have them lean on God as I did. Because without God in any aspects to my life, in my chapters back then, now, and in the future, there's no way that I could have survived it all. I wouldn't have survived it all. I'd probably be a different person if I did not have God in my life. I cannot be more grateful and thankful for the fact that here I am, that I'm telling you in this video that I am a God-fearing woman. I believe in God, and I am grateful for everything that He has done, especially considering that I have turned my back on Him countless times. And not once has He ever turned His back on me. I am someone that, as parents, we tell our kids, you need to listen. And the same thing applies for Him. We're His children. And what do? We don't listen. So it's kind of funny and ironic when we try to tell our kids, hey, you need to listen to us. And then here we are, we don't listen to our Father. Go figure, right? it's just hilarious. And now we get to these points where we can encounter people from our past, right? And we remember what they did, what they said, how they treated us, whatever inflictions that they caused in our lives back then, and whatever it is that put that bad taste in our mouth. And then here we are, we meet, we're having conversations, and they're dealing with something you dealt with. And confusion kind of comes into play because you kind of question, should I help this person? Should I give them advice? Should I do this? Should I do that? Or should I hold on to the fact that you really were a piece of work? Like, I remember when you did this to me. And when I was going through something, you didn't give a rip. You didn't care. You may have antagonized it or instigated it or been the cause of it. And now here you are in the same situation. So should I or shouldn't I help you? And then you have to stop and consider, I need to forgive. I shouldn't hold on to these things, these emotions. But then it's like more confusion because is this person real? Are they different? Have they changed? Are they really being honest with me? Because we don't really talk on the daily. This is just a very odd time to have a conversation with you. You're telling me all this. I'm well aware of this story. It's all too familiar to you because you've been there. You've done that. You could probably write a book about it. And then it's like, what do I do? And these are those moments when confusion comes into play, regardless of what it is. Whether it's personal, work related, whatever it is you're confused about, should I tell somebody this on your friendships or whatever the case may be, you really need to get clarity. And this is where you really need to have that conversation with God, because you need to know who's talking. You need to know, is it God talking? Is it God leading me? Or is this, the enemy trying to manipulate the situation and have me put my foot into a situation to create chaos in my own world, in my own home, in my own relationship? Because that can happen, you guys. It's happened. You don't realize that other people's situations can leak into your own, because whatever is lurking around that they need to, work on and get back on track, or try to get into that prayer. And, you want to plant those seeds to try to help them out, because that's what we want to do. We want to try to, plant those seeds, let them know to rely on God, let God be the foundation, and just work at that. Then the next thing you know, as you're trying to do something, all of a sudden, the stuff that's been going on with them now comes into your household. So before, you weren't really arguing with your partner, your husband, your wife, your significant other. Next thing you know, you're arguing over silly stuff. Silly stuff. And then you have to stop and think, why are we fighting? Like, what are we arguing about? Like, what is going on here? Like, we weren't doing this just the other day. Like, this is ridiculous. What is going on? And then that's when you have to really have that moment of like, oh my gosh, you know what I mean? This is stuff that's going on over there. This should not be happening over here. And that's when you really have to realize who's doing the talking. Because God isn't of confusion. The devil is. And he's out there to steal, kill, and destroy, and doesn't, want families to be united. He doesn't want us to, draw people closer and having a relationship with God. It's insane at the lengths of what the enemy will do to create such havoc in the household. But that's what happens. And that's where we have to do our part in coming together and sharing our story, sharing our testimony, sharing, any and every bit to ourselves, to, have any aspects to our story to be helpful to someone, but also have an awareness of who's doing the talking, who's doing the leading, because sometimes a situation can present itself, but it's not meant for you to dive in and do anything about it. It's just something that you're aware, and all that is meant for you to do is just pray for them, not intervene, not, dive head on, face first, and ask questions later type of a situation. You just have to be conscientious, because at the end of the day, we still have to be prayed up. We still have to make sure that with the battles that we face, the moment we walk out those doors and we interact with other people, that we are smart, protected, and that we don't bring anything back home to create havoc and chaos in your own household, especially if you have a peaceful home that is your sanctuary, that you've worked so hard in having, and you don't want anything to mess that up. So be careful when it comes to confusion. Be careful on the fact of who's talking and who's leading, because you don't want to be led down this dark hole that you're going to have a very tough time in getting out of. So that's my segment for today. Talk to you guys soon. Bye.